Well, good evening and welcome to Business Today. Thank you very much for keeping it Smart 24 TV, and welcome back from The Point, a very educative and yet a show that brings on board matters of factual reality. And definitely we are here to take you through the daily report of what business has been making headlines across Uganda today. And we're coming to you live from Plot 42 Nile Avenue. Good evening again, and let's get right onto it. And we kickstart it off with business growth, as good business is done better when there is a better environment. And company directors and secretaries have therefore been called upon to put environmental sustainability framework strategies under the governance committee. Pedersen Mumbere reports.
Environmental sustainability forces businesses to look beyond making short-term gains and look at the long-term impact they do have on the natural world. During the 11th Annual Directors and Company Secretaries Conference, company leadership was called upon to put environmental sustainability framework strategy at the forefront.
Boards. If ESG has not found itself on the agenda, then we really have a problem. Now we will discuss later on where does it fit. It is becoming, it is a discussion because it is going, we talk about sustainability. It will affect the business that you are doing if you do not address these issues. If it is not part of the strategy, and she will be talking, Kathy will be talking about the strategy, it's got to be part of the strategy. And what the board looking at now, and I say things are going to be getting measured. A number of organizations already report on their impact on how much water they consume, how much electricity they consume. As some of you, as in the introduction,
This year has been ESG, and what that stands for is the environment, social, and governance. And when we, as KPMG carried out a research, a survey of over 1,300 CEOs in the 11 major economies, including East Africa, we found that the ESG agenda has powered its way up to the #1 risk of all the risks that most of the corporate companies are looking at. And together with the cyber security and supply chain disruptions, of course, because of what's happening.
To business grooming in a most healthy and profitable way, it reduces risk, lowers costs, improves productivity, and enhances reputation. Experts say that companies that are adopting these forward-looking practices are gaining benefits now, and they are to survive for long.
It is priority, and it's actually the way you're meant to be doing business. And I think the part that is not also well understood is that ESG is really a humanity conversation. It's about how are we actually going to take care of ourselves, yes, the future generation, but everything around us. There's an ecosystem that's relying on us to do the right things so that even the way you do business is being done the right way. So what I'd like to touch on really briefly, and I'll get into it in the conversation, is when asked about a strategy, an ESG strategy, what does it even mean? What does it mean for any business? Why is it such a big deal that from a social impact perspective, you're concerned about diversity, about women in your office? Why are you concerned about, as Chairman mentioned, why aren't we actually collecting our plastics? Why are the environmental concerns not really being taken seriously? But something that was said earlier, which I appreciated, was what gets measured gets done.
We must be able to do business while we are restoring the environment in which we work and making it even better for the future generations to come. It's no longer sustainable to do business and think that other people are going to take care of the effects of your business decisions and also of your business actions. As you understand, so many businesses, so many organizations, whether through their production capacity, have got a huge impact on the environment that we live in.
As well, companies that integrate environment into their business decisions reduce their environmental risk and potential liabilities, ensure investment, and reduce their financial and reputational market exposure.
It is very paramount that all businesses incorporate ESG in their strategy, and if they want to survive beyond the short term, simply because climate change, things to do with governance, things to do with social and inclusion, diversity are becoming topical to so many people, and they have actually become regulated. You have heard of the Climate Change Accord, and companies are being held to account to meet certain KPIs. So if you as a company don't have a strategy in there, you will be failing to meet certain regulatory requirements in that space. You may even fail to get funding from some of the funders who can only fund people who are considering ESG as part of their agenda. You may fail to get suppliers or even customers who may buy your products if they have specific KPIs that they have to follow on ESG. So that's why ESG is extremely important.
An economic analysis of the potential impact of green growth on Uganda's economy indicated that if green growth interventions are fully implemented, they can boost economic activity worth 10% of the GDP by 2040, compared to business as usual. Deliver employment up to 40 million jobs and reduce future greenhouse gas emissions by 20% relative to a conventional growth pathway. Bedson Mumbere, Smart 24.
All right, and still with business today, as we move on, we talk more about city development. Yesterday we mentioned about city development and how conservation of the city is very important, more so conserving the environment around the city. Today we look at how government has released planning conditions for the relocation of some fuel stations. Uganda is faced with challenges of overcrowding within the cities, as there is a growing concern of developing oil stations within different regions that are raising environmental concerns as well as theft. Let's have the details of this report.
The Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Judith Nabakoba, says that there is no clear coordination for approval of the existing fuel stations, and these need to be revised.
The National Physical Planning Board, together with the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, came up with the physical planning conditions for locations of fuel stations, Regulations 2022, which are being launched today. Amanda
Ngabirano, the chairperson, National Physical Planning Board, gave a breakdown on the guidelines that have been followed by fuel station investors.
A person shall not commence a building operation for construction of a fuel station without a building permit issued in accordance with Section 36 of the Building Control Act 2013.
Some of the guidelines to be followed by developers include applying for building permits with an assessment done by NEMA, as well as applying to the Ministry of Energy for approval.
Thereafter, the developer shall apply for the petroleum facility construction permit from the Ministry of Energy. This is provided for under Sections 3, 4, and 5, 6 of the Physical Planning Regulations, gazetted under Statutory Instrument Number, the Statutory Instrument of 2022. The Regulations Part 3 provides for planning conditions for location of fuel stations near facilities and sensitive ecosystems.
According to the survey done in different cities, the major places are Wandegea, Masaka, Jinja, among others, where on almost every road there is a fuel station.
You can just go to Wandegea, Bombo Road, where the biggest trick is where one is opposite another. Then within a kilometer you have 10 of them actually. If you go to Jinja, you will realize that as you enter Jinja city, you are going to actually count them on both sides. Then we realized also in the upcoming towns, the fuel pumps, even in the rural towns, these small ones that you see fixed. In Masaka, it's the same story. So what actually these regulations are supposed to help this country with is to avoid this mistake in the upcoming towns.
This calls for auditing to be done to see if they had approvals for those existing ones. And if found not worth, there will be demolition to prevent risks of fire outbreaks and prevention of fumes that cause cancer.
We are going to avoid having 90% of these mistakes in the rest of the country. This is what we want to achieve. And then those that are already existing, we are also doing an audit if they actually got approvals.
If this is not done, the culprit will be asked to pay a fine of 960,000 Ugandan shilling, or to be imprisoned for 2 years.
The law will take its course against such developments undertaken within total disregard of the law and impunity. It should be noted that a person who contravenes these regulations commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine of 960,000 Ugandan shillings, or imprisonment up to a maximum of 2 years.
Below is the breakdown of regulations for fuel station locations. Fuel station shall not be located less than 200 meters from facilities like schools, worship places, among others. A fuel station shall not be located close to sensitive ecosystems like lakes, forests, among others. A fuel station shall not be located less than 100 meters from an industry or factory. 200 meters distance should be observed for a fuel station to a road junction. It shall not be constructed along expressways except at exit points. Location of a fuel station along a national road shall not be less than 3 kilometers from the existing petrol station. It shall not be sited at a road section that has vertical and horizontal curves, or bends. Building coverage for a fuel station shall not exceed 60% with a minimum green 10% of plot area. Upon completion, the developer has to apply for an occupation permit. The developer shall then prior obtain a completion certificate and petroleum operating license from the Ministry of Energy. Naomi Mtumba.
Have you ever watched a Ugandan movie and you've fallen in love with that? Pearl Magic comes to you with GoTV, and quite a number of movies are in there. Well, our next story is taking us to movie business in Uganda. That is why I did ask my question, if any of you has happened to see any movie made from Uganda and you've fallen in love with it, albeit a series. The movie production business is very profitable globally, and a number of Ugandans have invested in the enterprise, as unfortunately there has been limited response as the different players explain this cause in this report. Barija Andrew reports.
Despite the aggressive tactics deployed to boost the industry, the Ugandan movie sector still attracts a low level of income earnings from the different movie outgoers in the nation. In this generation, most especially citizens between the age of 14 and about 40, less attention is given in support for the local movies. This is explained with the box office results clearly indicating the price details of each ticket cost of watching a movie in relation to the overall sum collected weekly or even on a single premiere. Victor Semanda, the manager at Cinemax, explains to us vividly the trend of the Ugandan-made movies' performance.
Raised, I think, around 2 point something in a day. If the actors, if they mobilize themselves, they get people to come. Because for us, when we market, people don't show up. As I told you, their content raised beyond what? YouTube. So it's hard for someone to pay when the content is already there, you get. Yeah, that is the main problem they are facing. Their main problem they are facing is that one.
This declares the industry to some extent financially unreliable. A blame local movie makers have pressed on the local cinemas. Melindra Richard, a movie director, explains.
The challenge we have right now, it is because cinemas, Ugandan cinemas, they don't want to show our local content because they think our local content is not good. But we think, as producers, we have a very good work because even right now we have several channels they came to us and they buy our content. But our local channels and cinemas and vibandas, they don't want to show our movies because they think our movies is not good. And for us right now, we have a very good movies, like quality work.
But the cinema owners deny these allegations, saying they are at the forefront of supporting the locally produced movies.
I'm suggesting if they can work with us, for us, we can create some software which can help them so that they can release their movies before. They can release their movies without anyone getting their content. You get.
What's the way forward then? Mulindwa highlights what should be put in place to ensure that the industry attains a financially reliable status.
We have a very good movies, like quality work. So we're calling upon government. They have to empower copyright law. They have to empower like UCC, URSB, because they know the copyright law is there, but they don't want to enforce it. So that is why I think even TVs, there is a law said every TV in Uganda has to show 70% local content, but they don't. We don't know why, but they don't. Every TV you saw, they have Koreas, they have Indian movies, they have foreign movies, and they are pirated movies, and the government know about that, but they don't respond. So I think if government decided to enforce the copyright law, the movie industry will be okay. Yes.
Barija Andrew, Smart 24.
All right, now let's head to the International Museum Day, as improving the museum services in Uganda has been the key highlight of the celebrations, all the commemorations that are coming up this 18th of May. As museums are important places for cultural exchange and enrichment and the development of mutual understanding. 18th May, all around the world, each year, there are events that celebrate the International Museums Day. So the Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities expressed the need to improve museum services in Uganda as they plan to celebrate the International Museums Day come this month.
Last year, more than 37,000 museums participated in events in about 158 countries, with Uganda inclusive. Museums have potential to create experiences for people through engaging constructively, thus mitigating challenges of inclusion and diversity. Uganda has 3 national museums and intends to develop other museums, especially in the 3 new cities. Retired Colonel Tomo Butime says they are aiming at increasing visibility to over 15,000 Ugandans participating virtually and physically.
International Museum Day on Wednesday, March this year. The aim of International Museum Day is to raise awareness of the fact that museums are important places for cultural exchange, enrichment of cultures, and development of mutual understanding, cooperation, peace among peoples. Around the world, 18th May each year, there are events and activities that take place that are planned to celebrate International Museum Day The
Assistant Commissioner for Museums, Sal Chizara, highlighted the activities for the 14th up to the 18th to celebrate International Museums.
Definitely there will be free entry on the 18th when everybody can come to the museum and enjoy everything freely. But between 12th and 18th, those activities which will be outdoor shall be free. But accessing exhibitions inside will be paid the normal fee, daily fee, which we charge.
Ronana Habwe.
And then lastly, from Business Today, we mentioned things to do with crisis management. How is crisis handled in a business and how can it be handled in a workplace? Crisis usually arises in business, and what matters is how this crisis is managed. An expert during an exclusive interview with Smart24 TV has advised on how to manage crisis in an organization. Gloria Mbabazi with the details.
Crisis management is a crucial tactic that establishes and documents the framework within which an organization makes decisions on how to respond to an incident that eclipses its business as usual capabilities. Stephen Mwanga, the president of Public Relations Association of Uganda, says there is no way a business can operate with bad reputation. Therefore, he advises on how organizations can manage crisis.
Have different approaches, but there are basic things that an organization should do when a crisis occurs. One, call it an impromptu meeting. Call an impromptu meeting, take a decision, take a position as an organization. That will help your peer person, to manage what? Communication around that crisis. That meeting will give the peer person, will empower the peer person or the communications manager, whatever title you give that person, to now speak with authority. That is one thing. Call an impromptu meeting, take a position. Another basic thing is to ensure that you monitor media coverage. How is the media covering you in this situation? Set up, some organizations usually set up a central information center. So you are able to control information flow from your organization. Set up a central information center and ensure that you regularly communicate to the affected publics of your organization. Give them every bit of information that relates to a crisis. That way you are controlling communication in an organization. And attend to calls from the media. Attend to the publics. Attend to calls from the publics. Collect every information that you think relates to this crisis and make sure it is disseminated on time.
It's crucial for an organization to take stand or position in case there is a crisis. Stephen elaborates.
Organizations will deny that there is no crisis. Completely do what? Deny. They even threaten to sue the person who is insinuating that there is a crisis in the organization. They threaten to sue that person. The organizations that take that position. Some organizations minimize the extent of the crisis. They say, oh yes, it is true we have such a situation, but it is something that involves a few people in the organization. Maybe some people will say some disgruntled staff, and as far as we are concerned, that is not a very serious business. They downplay the situation in the organization. Where actually there is a big crisis. Some organizations will choose to take a full apology anyway. They'll take a full apology and they say, true, we have a crisis. These are the facts. This is the damage. We apologize. This is how we are moving forward. So it also depends on on the situation.
Stephen says businesses or organizations can be affected heavily in case they are reluctant to manage the crisis. It is paramount that when a crisis occurs, it is professionally and effectively managed for the good of the organization and the public it serves.
Organization, it's important that we manage it. Why? Because as I said, a crisis is that sudden occurrence that affects, one, the reputation of the organization, that affects its employees, that affects its business, that affects the well-being of everyone, that affects the operations of that organization, or an occurrence that affects the publics of that organization. Therefore, if the crisis is not managed, these are the following disadvantages that accrue, that come around. Or one, there will be damage caused on your reputation as an organization. Your public image as an organization will be ruined. Therefore, it means that your operations as an entity are going to be affected. Therefore, when operation is affected, your financial stand as an organization will definitely be affected. And your relationship with the people that you serve.
That is it for tonight's bulletin in Business Today. Thank you very much for being part of it tonight. We were coming to you live from Plot 42, Nile Avenue. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko. Get me on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at Jerome Paul Sonko. You can follow us on Twitter at Smart24TV, Facebook Smart24TV Official, and then Instagram is Smart24TV as well. And please do remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Smart24TV. And then the website is www.smart24.tv for more details regarding business stories and business reports. And definitely that is it for us. As we are signing out, we are definitely making you understand that we are the driving force of business in the country. And we are definitely dedicated to making sure that we keep you up to speed with that. And then tomorrow, live programming will return 7 a.m. sharp. I will be here with Richard Caballero with Smart Means Business, taking you through what is making headlines from the world of business and understanding the scope of the entire business world. This is Smart24 TV. Have a blessed good night and a goodbye.